All right, so tell me why you love Scrum so much.
I love Scrum because it has freed me from the chains of variation and changes and the reality. Because the reality is constantly changing, and we have to have an agile mindset to adjust to that. And all of those other methods that I've been trying to use and plan to control each of these phases in the projects and the product development, it doesn't work. So Agile has just freed me, and finally I can embrace the changes.
The shift has occurred, and you now have your love affair with Scrum is nearly complete.
Welcome to the EBFC show, the easier, better for construction podcast. I'm your host, Felipe Engineer-Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction.
Today's episode is sponsored by
Bosch Refine My Site is a cloud-based construction collaboration platform that applies lean principles to enable your entire team to plan, communicate, and execute in real time. It's the digital tool that works in tandem with your last planner system process and puts it all together in one simple, collaborative ecosystem. This easy-to-use platform is available in English, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and French, and can be used on desktops, tablets, and mobile devices. According to Spencer Easton, scheduling manager at Oakland Construction,
Refine My Site, in my opinion, is the best, leanest tool on the market for last planner system.
here's what our users have to say. We've looked at 3 other digital scheduling platforms, and none compare to the straightforward approach Refine My Site takes. From milestone planning all the way down to daily tasks, this program gives every general contractor and their trade partners meaningful collaboration, accountability, and KPIs. Register today to try Refine My Site for free for 60 days.
Today's show is also sponsored by the Lean Construction Institute. LCI is working to lead the building industry in transforming its practices and culture. Its vision is to create a healthy and thriving industry that delivers outstanding project outcomes every time for everyone. Check the show notes for more information. Now, to the show.
Welcome to the show, Sindre Gundersen. Sindre, you are a student already become master. Even while you were in the Scrum training, and we've got mutual friends that go back, spread across the Atlantic Ocean, I've already seen glimmers of your Scrum implementation in your organization. You tell the people of the EBFC show, and people, while he's telling you this, remember to click in the description below for more details on Sindre's bio and where you can connect with him, and you can message him too on social media, especially on LinkedIn. But I saw a LinkedIn post, and you already started teaching. Can you just tell people in the everyday, what type of work do you do in construction?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Felipe, for inviting me. I'm such a big fan of what you're doing, bringing the agile mindset into construction. That's just 10 times.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because we need it so much, so it's a great privilege to be a part of your show. First of all, my name is Sindre Gundersen, 39 years old, and I'm from a small town in Molde, in Norway. What's called Molde. Norway is a small country in Europe. So I work as a digital guide and a VDC facilitator in a company that is called Expro. And we are primarily a consultant company in the Norwegian construction industry. And we have our vision and a company goal that is go beyond and create the industry tomorrow. So that's a great vision.
A nice big goal. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So a big part of my day is trying to think different and trying to go outside of the box. And I truly believe that our industry needs the change, and also think more about how we can work easier and better. So we're in the same boat, Felipe.
We are. The industry is ready for a change. I mean, just going back, we've had digital assets for construction. We've had BIM. We've had clash resolutions that have happened beyond the light table. For people old enough to remember light tables, that was in the 1990s. Here we are when we're recording the show, 2023. And what would you say is the BIM adoption for construction projects, at least in Norway? Is it like more than half of the projects, 90% of the projects, less than half? Where is it?
Over the half of the projects have implemented BIM, but I would say it's primarily to solve the visualization of the project, to see it visual. But the information part of the BIM, we haven't scratched a part of it. So it's we use BIM, but we use it to visualize, and that's a great value. But there are several value potentials in BIM with integrating information and automation of this information. So we have just touched into the values in BIM, I think, so in Norway.
Yeah, I think shockingly, it's about the same in the United States. Like people have done well to increase using it, but there's a lot of information in the model that we don't use yet. And only like I've only seen in the super intense lean integrated project delivery jobs, which I think you guys have your own acronym potentially for what something similar is. That's the only time I see it really getting used to the max. It's only on the clients that really want to push the envelope and squeeze all the value out of what they do. Do these requests even happen? Because it's like the everyday, you know, if I have the skills, you have the skills, we would never go to a job and not use the things at our disposal to do that job, regardless of the contract. I saw a LinkedIn post from you recently, and I'm going to put it, I'll stick it here between us. So it'll be like, it'll come up between us in the show. So this is the LinkedIn post that I saw that Sindre had posted, and I saved it. Of course, I have a snapshot of it saved. It says, I'm prepared, Sindre. I'm prepared. I've done my homework.
Always.
And you said, and when I saw this post, you didn't use the word Scrum explicitly, but I saw what you did step by step. And in 60 minutes, I dare say you launched a brand new Scrum team.
But I did launch it. I landed it because we evaluated a Scrum project, because that was the first project we both did Scrum in design and also implemented Takt in production. So it was a tremendous learning project. And we did that with the basics that the general contractor had been on the course with Jason Schroeder, the bootcamp course.
Right.
And also I have just read Jeff Sutherland's the art of doing twice the work in half the time.
Excellent.
And then we just thought of why don't we just try and use it in this project? We had a small time to solve the project. We had a half a year of solving the project, and it was critical that we had to be finished. So it had to be very fast, and all the participants were very scared about the timeline in the project. So then I said, just let's use Scrum. And they all embraced it, because we had built some kind of culture of learning, so they had some trust in me before.
Good. That's very good. I like that. You're teaching, you're already showing, you're demonstrating, you're leading. And I tell all of my students, and Sindre is no exception, he was amazing in the Scrum Master course that we had. You only have to be at most about half a step ahead of the people that you're leading. It's not that far. You don't have to be that far ahead. And I hope everyone listening, if you go back and listen to the show a second time, the second time you're listening to the show, because it's going to be that good of a show, definitely tap that like button and show Sindre some love that you love it right now. And you heard in his voice, like he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure it was going to work, but he knew from his experience, from his learning, from his training, there is a way to get done faster. And I love that you partnered Scrum and Takt together. I often use Scrum to deliver Takt and implement Takt to some degree on every project I'm on today, because it's that powerful to create flow. It makes you do the right things for flow, even as people are learning the process with you, because you're not going to have perfect Takt or perfect Scrum in the first day. And in this first session, you spent, I would say my only feedback is that you didn't spend enough time on the introductions. And I think I want to remind everybody that when you're starting something new, especially with construction people, and you heard Sindre said they were scared, he was worried, the schedule is aggressive. Let people express themselves a little bit more. And like, even if I had an hour and I lost half an hour to people doing introductions, I would make magic in that last 30 minutes because you've heard everybody. It's so powerful to hear and respect people and listen to the concerns and then say, let's try this process together. I'm going to guide you. And Sindre did an absolutely amazing job. And I'm looking at his agenda that he had here. He had hello and jump, and this is translated into English because it's originally in. You tried it. What happened?
I tried it, and first of all, you have to have a belief in yourself, and you have to stick to it, stick to the belief, regardless if you have all the answers or everything. You will not have control into this process when you start it, but you have to have the belief on what you're doing. And I believe that belief came from experiencing all the frustration in the existing processes of how we're doing, how we did it before. And in that frustration, finding that, we have, as you said, we have a solution, we have a tool we can use, we have to embrace it, we have to try to find out how it can work for us. And this belief, you have to stay to that and stick to that, to your heart in that process, because people are people that want to follow those beliefs. They want to follow those visions, they follow those changes. But if you start with just the schedule and see, we're going to do this, 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 it will be too rigid and too firm. So people will be a bit scared, I think. So you have to, like, you're an expert on this, Felipe, trying to create this charisma, this energy in the processes it's fun. It's very fun.
Right. It is.
Yeah. And that is, I think, the secret ingredient or the spice in those processes. You have to come with it. So not to pushing the level too far up, so people won't try, but start with having fun on the work. I think that's a good start for mine. So that was the start of that process or that evaluation. So it was an extreme success, and everybody had suddenly an A3 paper that they could use. And they can implement it. We had it internally in our company. I used that A3 sheet and had during a lunch period. I just pushed up on the screen, and everybody sat there with their food, and I went through it, and then we could spread the learning. So it's very easy. It's very easy and fast to do. Yeah,
Sindre, I love that approach. I had just talked to a project manager recently, and I'm coming to his job to teach him the Bolt production system, our version of Last Planner system production controls, a little bit of Scrum, of course, and some Takt, which is part of our system. Yeah. And I said, he was very unsure because he doesn't know who I am. And for all intents and purposes, I'm a stranger. And I said to him, I was like, listen, I'm going to buy you and your team lunch. I was like, let's eat and talk about what's going on. And it's not going to be like a bunch of slides that I'm going to show you on the first day. I was like, eventually I will have some visuals to share with you. I was like, let's just eat first. And then he was like, okay, come eat. So I think there is something to it. The spice that you say that I bring, which is I could hear the intrepidation. I can hear the resistance, because everybody who's working, Sindre and I both know that before we bump into you on your project, you were already working just fine, right?
Yeah.
Even if your project is falling behind schedule or struggling to stay on time. And if I say struggling, if you're working overtime, if you're working more than 8 hours, I'm setting the bar lower. If you're working more than 8 hours a day, you're struggling to keep up, honestly. Because if you use the system like Sindre is proposing, Scrum and especially Takt together, you won't have to work 8 hours a day. you'll choose to work 8, and you might hang around for 10 because it's fun.
Exactly. So the things I love about Scrum, and I see that people can be a bit skeptic when they hear about how we can double the velocity of how you produce something in half the time. So they say, oh, how is that possible? Because I'm working very fast, I think. Yeah. But it's all about how you prioritize your work, and the prioritization, the setting up of each task up against each other, and saying this is something I have to do, this creates value, this is important, regarding to this is nice to do, I love doing this, but it's not important, and just shoving that out to the side. But it doesn't, it's not very good, because I want to do that, but it's nice to do. But this is the visualization and doing this each week, each day, and trying to get this philosophy and methodology into your way of working. That's Scrum, and that is how you can be much more faster, and how you can work 8 hours each day, not 10 or 24 or
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's true about priority.
And everybody who hears this system, they always tell me, like, it sounds too good to be true. And I tell, like, secretly, Sindre, I'm gonna, first ever sit on the show, we're working way too hard because of some bad habits that we've inherited from people. And arguably the people that have come before us have done the best that they could, but some people are just fanatical about experimentation. And Dr. Jeff Sutherland is one of those fanatical scientists that found the lightest weight possible framework to enable flow to happen every day. And because for most of us, and I see in construction most of the time, people triple their output. And Jeff used to joke in his courses when he was teaching Scrum Masters, like, I had a money back guarantee in the early days. And he'd tell people, like, if you don't double your throughput, I'll give you your money back for the training. And he never gave refunds because it's so easy to double your throughput. And everybody just looks at us, and I tell people, like, it's not overtime, it's not more people, it's because our flow is so blocked, and Scrum allows you to see where that block is, and it's going to change. And that's why you got to have these feedback loops every day, which in the framework, if you do it, even if you do bad Scrum, and Jason agrees, Jason Schroeder says, even if you do bad Takt, it is still going to flow way better than if you just push dates on people. And I love when you said, I'm going to make that a clip for the show. If you just push dates and say, first we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, it turns people off, and it doesn't show people how we're going to get there. So you had an hour with this team. What are some of the objections that people raised in that hour that you had to answer, if any?
It's the first, I think, is the fight against the existing processes of the existing way to work. Because when you're implementing an agile way of working, you splitting up the work into sprints, and you say that we want feedback on everything we do. We accept that if you, as a designer or architect or something, design something that you believe that the customer wants, we want to get as fast as possible that you show us what you think the need is, so the customer can say, that's wrong, because it's probably wrong.
Oh my God, I'm using that. I'm stealing that to my next design sprint of 100%. I'm going to say exactly that.
And that's the resistance you meet, because when I started, I said that we're going to do that on 1 week sprint. So we start this Monday, on Friday, you show what you think. And then you meet some feelings that, oh, I think I need 3 weeks to do this, because they have some mindset of I want to have 100% solution to solve. They are proud of their products, so they want to deliver something that is perfect or nearly perfect
Right.
before they show it. And that we have to trim that out of the system. We have to have some. I have said that the napkin is something. The napkin drawing of a concept. Show me what you think on a napkin. That is a very good first iteration of a concept on a building. Not a Bing model with all of 3D objects and everything. Just show me a napkin what you're thinking. I'm going to say that you're wrong, or not me, but the customer is going to say that. So this feedback loops, it's what you want, but that's resistance regarding to the traditional linear way of thinking that is more slower and harder and longer. That is the first and the most hardest thing that I met, and I still meet in the projects that I implement Scrum or the Agile mindset. So how to break that is by you having this podcast and spreading the word. that is
and now you
yeah.
sharing your experiences as well, which I absolutely love. I think you're right.
Yeah.
When people in traditional construction, and Sindre is focusing much on design because that's where he's involved first.
Yeah.
However, we see the same exact thing in construction. As you were talking, I was flashing back to so many construction team meetings where the client said, I'd like to do this thing first, or I want to change this, or we have this shutdown that's going to happen at this time. And then the team goes to prepare and they try to bring back perfection. And when the client is saying, I would like to, they didn't say it must be done. And this is the first thing you're going to do. And this is the second thing. And then this is the third. It's not that detailed out, people.
No.
Sometimes when the client is talking to you, they want to be part of the process.
Yes.
And for a lot of building owners, a construction project is a major multi-million-dollar investment. And they want to be a part of like how it's made and put together. Now, arguably, some owners hire managers to do this because they want nothing to do with construction. Now that's out there. And so we're not talking about those projects.
No.
But if you have a client, a building owner who cares about what's happening and you can see and sense the care, let them be part of the process. Like Sindre said, a napkin sketch is great to say, this is what we're thinking. And a lot of times in the construction side, if we have something that's going to affect the schedule, if we just take a logistics drawing, draw some arrows on it, color it up and shade it, and say, this is the flow we're thinking with some dates. Yeah. That's enough. That's enough to get started. And then you can make a TAC plan or you can make a pull plan in minutes.
Yeah. So I believe that our waste is in design is over processing. We're creating a lot of documents and brilliant sketches and renderings and BIM models and all that's thrown in the trash. Right. And that's sad. So we have to just fix that in design. And then I think a more mindset regarding Agile and design thinking in the iterations and prototyping. That's there we have a lot of value. We have a lot of money to save in this industry in time, consultancy time, and all of that. So if we just started there. I think money.
Yeah, for everybody. And building owners, you're listening to Sindre is like the rest of us in construction that care about our jobs. We don't want to produce something that ends up in the garbage. Now, arguably, to iterate and get there, we know that some things will be let go of, but nobody enjoys getting paid to make something that no one will ever use. I have not met that human being yet. Right? And so we want you owners to keep more of your money and translate that money to actual value in your building. Yeah. You've got to step back as a building owner and say, am I forcing this team to make something that I'm just going to have my stakeholders reject and throw away? A lot of design never gets used. And if you're on a project and you think you're not doing this, I'm going to challenge you with this single metric. How many RFIs do you have and how many bulletins is your architectural team issuing? Or if you're on an engineering project, your engineering team. And if those drawings are changing systems, layouts, flows, and dealing with clashes among design disciplines, You have created a system that makes waste, because that should not happen if done right. And especially if it's an integrated team, your RFI count should be approaching 0 at all times. It should be very close to 0. And unless you have a big scope change, like you suddenly learn something or some new technology emerges that becomes commercially available for the building owner, and you need to change significant scope to allow for that to be incorporated in your design. Outside of that, it should be designed to purpose from day one.
But we see it all the time. We don't, in Norwegian projects where I participate, the value of the project isn't identified early in the stage. What is the value it's going to solve for someone? It's probably some goals or some visions, of course, but they are not dismantled into something specific metrics that we can follow and try to achieve. And if you have this value-oriented mindset from the start, then you will have the possibility to iterate, as you said, because you try to solve, you have a problem, you draw 3 prototypes on napkins or something, and the customer say, I want this from this alternative, this from this, and this from this, merge it. And then you have to throw all of those 3, but the 3 has merged into 1 or something. And if you try to follow that value, not just building walls and ceilings and floors, then I think this will be possible to do. But it's of course it's demanding, and you have to work integrated. You can't sit in one place and an architect in another place, and you have to work together because it's complex to think this, especially in the start of the project.
Absolutely. On this team that you're working with to start, this skeptical team or this normal team, were they working hybrid, or were they co-located together? And what type of contract was it, just out of curiosity?
The contract was traditional design bid build, but we had some degree of integrating it when they bid on the contract. So we tried to merge something by eliminating some of the risks, so that the general contractor wasn't the one that took all the risk. The owner, we had a shared open risk pot. And we tried to so that was a very good entrance into the project by creating the transparency and the trust that we wanted. And from there, we just we had a COVID period in Norway at that time, so we couldn't sit together. So we had
I know it's prevented me from going to Molde like 3 times.
Yeah, that's correct. But you're coming.
That's right. I am coming. So that's amazing. I mean, everyone listening, Sindre applied Scrum to a traditional project. I'm going to say that again, in case you missed it. He applied Scrum to a traditional project. That's the same story I have. First time I applied Scrum, I was on a traditional hard bid project as well. I was a little past design by the time we started it, but I learned it. So I'm very happy to see how you started it early on. What method did you use to communicate the Scrum task? Did you use a digital solution or analog sticky notes?
We set up a Miro. We used so we just set up a Scrum board in that, and I would say that it was not a school example of Scrum. just to be honest.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
right? Especially when first starting. So if I looked at your doing column, I'd see like 10,000 tags in there or something like that.
Yeah, but the thing I saw is when we had just the 3 elements of sprint planning, we had the daily scrums or the stand-ups, we set up that, and we had the sprint reviews. Those 3 we had. Perfect. And when we set up the planning, then we could organize each other. What are the important things to do now, this week, together? We did that. And by doing that as a project manager or facilitating that as a project manager, I saw that the stand-ups created the self-organizing teams. The consultants talk to each other. They solve problems across the team. So I removed myself as a bottleneck of information, and so suddenly I got more time to do other things and to facilitate and try to solve the owner's issues and the other processes. And the team was much faster solving their problems, and they were not waiting on information. So by just doing those three elementary things is so important. And you have the Scrum framework with all the artifacts and all. So of course it could be some overwhelmment in that just by seeing and looking at that, but it's very easy. It's just to drag down to start with that. And if you don't start with the planning, just start by increasing the communication projects by the daily stand-ups. Then you have a tremendous effect by just removing yourself from sending emails and handling and pushing emails all.
Yeah, less emails is good.
Yeah,
face-to-face communication is the gold standard. And if people can talk, like you said, and everyone listening, Sindre is a master facilitator. He knew he has to eliminate himself from the conversation. A great facilitator creates the environment so that people can communicate, and then we get out of the way so that it can happen, because it's not us doing the work, right? We have other things we want to get involved in, like juicy problem solving. Now, I want to hear, you said you had about 6 months to go from design to start of construction. Did you make it?
Yeah, we make it with, we were finished about half a month before schedule. So it was amazing. And think about that was the process. We implemented Scrum and implemented Takt. So we identified a lot of potentials that we failed on. So thinking of if you're a professional Scrum and Takt general contractor or consultant or something, a team, you will beat every benchmarks out there, I think.
That's
I believe
right.
that.
So, but still, even listen, people, first time, he's still 2 weeks faster in design. I don't know of a team, Sindre, and you can think of the teams that you've been a part of that finished a design schedule on time if they weren't using Scrum or Takt.
No.
Exactly. If you're listening out there and you have such a project of such an example, contact me. Go to thefelipe.bio.link. I want to know about this magical project. But from my experience, and now it's almost 30 years that I've been in construction, I haven't seen that happen yet. So I think it's powerful to say that, and for the designers listening, like, Agile is not something we do to you. It's something that we do so that we enable work to happen, so you can do the great design work that you want to do, that you've always wanted to do. Now, what about in the construction side, Sindre? You said you implemented Takt. How did that compare to your baseline waterfall schedule?
Primarily, one challenge we found is you can implement the Takt system by just building a Takt plan and trying to create an integrated plan for that with the trades. And that can look very nice to stabilize the project. It's very good. But the second challenge is to implement it in the daily routines on the project. The foremen and all of the people on the site has to communicate on a so much higher level, or not level, but so much oftener. They are not, it's not a tradition to communicate as so much. We have to communicate each day on the stand-ups. We have to look at the plan. We have to remove obstacles. We have to but many of the trades see meetings. They are biased by all of the older meetings they had. Right. So there's, now we're going to sit in a meeting again and talk about something that doesn't regard me or something. That's their bias into the process. So we have to turn that also around, and the meeting routines on the project, and that we didn't solve on this project, but just by stabilizing the production with a plan and integrating the trades with each other, we fixed the schedule, and we made progress, so we came finished half a month before schedule. So just by doing that, we solved the biggest problem. So if we try to further on work with the meeting routines and the communication on site, then we'll probably be twice as fast. So it's tremendous to just have that tool.
That's a big win though. And like, how long, just overall, just give people a context, how long was the total construction project? Was it like a year and a half, 2 years?
No, it was a small project. It was about a year, about half a year. I 1.5 a year. So
1.5 years, project, 6 months of design, and then 12 months of construction. 2 weeks faster on a 12-month project is significant. That's a significant time savings.
Yeah, and we learned a lot in that process. So if you think about, if you're trying to work and do a project in the way you always have done it, so you have to lay on top of that you're trying to do it another way. And also, if by doing that, you still got to finish ahead of the time. So when we get this as our DNA in our production, think about how it can solve the future projects. It's amazing.
It is amazing. We were working on a job that had probably on paper 3 months until it was substantially complete. And when we walked the project, it became clear that job would not finish for 6 months. And we had an honest conversation with the manager and the superintendent, and they said, I sense that it's not going to finish, but the scheduling software says we're fine. And I said, let's look at the stack at the end, because like if you've done this once or twice, all of the software allows you to stack as many trades and resources as possible to infinity. There's no limit to how much stacking you can do. And then I said, okay, let's just pick one trade. I said, can this contractor that's going to do the electrical work be in these 30 places at the same time? You tell me, you know this market better than I do. And they were like, well, no. I said, okay, you have a schedule that is telling you a lie. So we can either fix that or we can implement Takt. It's your choice. And I said, how long would it take you to rework this schedule? Because it had a very complicated work breakdown structure. And the PM said, if I had 5 days and nothing else was happening, I would still probably not even finish it in 5 days. And I said, okay, let's spend 60 minutes together while you eat. I'll start it. And then when you finish eating, you can jump in. And we did it. We made a Takt plan on a whiteboard. And then we shifted from a whiteboard to Excel. And the project came back in 6 months, back on time. And we were able to pull in an additional month for a 6-month total gain. And eventually the owner gave them a time extension, which was amazing. They didn't even ask for it. This was like the other funny thing. Like the owner saw the turnaround from the team. They had asked for a recovery schedule and they created a Takt plan. And then after watching it work, because the owner was like in disbelief, like there's no way that this single page schedule is going to do any kind of magic. And we even had meetings with the client and we said, the magic is in how people talk and see the flow. And the work we have to do is different now. Instead of now pushing dates on people, we're now working to make sure that things are clear. So it's just like in a train, the front of the train, the engine has that in English, they call it the cow catcher. It pushes things off the tracks so that the train can stay on the tracks. This team had to shift into making the tracks clear for each subsequent trade. And they finished early. But like you said, it wasn't even a perfect Takt, but it still worked magic because the flow was so bottled up. So I love at the end, you did this on a traditional team. What was the level of friendship or camaraderie with the designers as it was transitioning to construction? What would you say that feel was like?
I would say it was special. I have experienced that on 2 other projects, and the magic that suddenly happens in those projects is that we don't continue working together. We want to be a part of this process, or because we learn so much. We have a good dynamics. We have a good friendship. Let's say that we have an open dialogue, and the designers wanted to be a part of a much more part of the construction. So they were tighter on this construction because they wanted to be a part of it, but because they had some kind of ownership over the solution. So that's a magic thing that happens. And also after the project, when the project is finished, they want to be a part of something. Where do we go now? Because the saddest thing is you go from this project and suddenly you just pull into a traditional project where there's no magic. and then the people trying to where can I join?
Yeah, where can I go work with Sindre again? So Sindre, tell people where can they find and connect with you, and how can they learn more about Expro?
Yeah, we go on our webpage, expro.as, or you can Google Contact Norway. We have produced a lot of videos on YouTube where we try to connect the construction industry in Norway just by connecting through learning. We want to talk about technology, we want to talk about processes, and we just accept that we don't know everything and we want to learn. So it's a lot of videos on YouTube under Contact Norway you can see, and some of them are of course on Norwegian. So
of course,
yeah,
it's to be expected.
Yeah,
and I'll make sure I'll also link. I saw that Contact Norway connected with my YouTube channel this morning, like magic.
Yeah.
And I will, in kind, I'll put a link on my channel so that people coming to Felipe Engineer on YouTube and listening to this show on YouTube can just click on the affiliated channels and get right to Contact Norway. The magic that Sindre is talking about is absolutely real. I've heard the same thing from project teams. When you experience this level of collaboration, friendships are forged that nothing can get in the way of these professional relationships. And these team members will go on and always be longing for that project that used Scrum and Takt and Last Planner system and all these things that allow people to show up as people.
I was on the streets one day, and suddenly came a woman I hadn't met before, and she was working as an architect, and she came up to me and said, "Thank you, Sindre, for Scrum," she said. And I just, what happened now? I must ask, what's the context? I said, the context is the general contractor who was on the project that we're talking about had implemented and still using Scrum in the next project where she was an architect, and she was embracing it and finally saying, I can work efficient. So this is magic. I think it's connecting people on a whole another level.
Absolutely. Sindre, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. This has been incredible having you on here.
Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer-Manriquez. The EBFC show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's go build.